I'm excited to have this discussion with Rishabh Poddar about opaque systems and confidential AI. My name is Francis Ho, and I'm a partner at Walden Catalyst Ventures. We're a deep tech global VC fund, and we have the privilege of being an investor in opaque systems.
Absolutely. Thank you, Francis, and thank you to the AI Evolution team for having me here. It's a very exciting time for all of us at Opaque. My name is Rishabh. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Opaque. Uh, Opaque is a company that was born out of research and open source at UC Berkeley, where I was doing my PhD along with my co-founders. In a nutshell, Opaque provides a confidential AI platform, and we help organizations and enterprises um, unlock their most sensitive and valuable data for trusted enterprise AI while making sure that all their data remains provably protected at all times. Super excited to discuss more about confidential AI with you, Francis.
Thank you, Rishabh. I'm curious, what made you think in the beginning that you have a kind of commercial enterprise, a business opportunity versus a attractive research topic? What led to that aha moment?
It's a question that I get often, to be honest. Honestly, so the research that powers Opaque goes back 10 years, starting 2015, 2016, back in the university days at Berkeley. And at the time, I think the direction was informed really by two key trends as we saw them play out in industry. And this was before the term confidential AI, the category confidential AI even existed. Um, Back then, in 2015, 2016, around that time frame, the first trend that we were seeing very clearly play out in market was that big data solutions, as they were called at the time, were being employed by organizations of all shapes and sizes to inform increasingly important business outcomes. Uh, Companies were using data and data analytics and machine learning to build and power their applications. The next barrier, as we saw it, that needed to be overcome was how do you get access to more data, more diverse data, data that organizations did not fully have access to for a variety of reasons, because of data sensitivity or because of privacy and compliance reasons. Um, how do you enable access to those while ensuring that the data remains protected at the same time? Uh, and the second key trend that we were seeing play out very clearly was data privacy was becoming a first order concern in the world. GDPR was coming into force, and countries around the globe were following suit and putting privacy laws on their books. Uh, and this we predicted kind of naturally that would cause data to be even more locked down, even more clamped down than it already was. So, on the one hand, you need access to more data to get better insights, to power your data in machine learning and AI pipelines. And on the other hand, data would get more and more restricted, and with good reason. How do you bridge this gap? How do you allow data to be used to its fullest potential on the one hand, while at the same time honoring the privacy and compliance constraints that are placed on the data? This was really the fundamental challenge that we sought out to solve, first in research, and now we're doing that in Opaque. Um, we built a variety of tools and technologies, uh, and confidential AI, that direction was born out of this line of work. Before starting the company, we saw a lot of excitement and a lot of interest around the tech tools and technologies that we were building. Very interesting use cases around banks wanting to share data with each other, for instance, while ensuring that the data stays protected from each other, allowing them to collaborate to identify money launderers, human traffickers, healthcare institutions, needing to share data with each other to identify and build better disease prediction models and so forth. So this need to access private data existed across the enterprise, and now some of these problems are getting exacerbated because of generative AI as well. So that is really how we decided to launch the company and how confidential AI was born. Um, and now we see
Yeah, it's very
organizations
interesting.
across the globe adopting and deploying it.
Very interesting that you foresaw a problem, and that problem became much, much bigger with the explosive growth of generative AI. And so naturally, maybe the question that new customers might have is, maybe does it sound too good to be true? Because they know that AI depends on data, they know that AI depends on cloud, and those are often, conflicting requirements and privacy and control and so on. So why is it possible to have confidential AI?
Um, to answer that, let me first perhaps try and describe what confidential AI solutions provide, what kinds of properties, and then go one level deeper into our approach, perhaps, in how we solve this in using the Opaque product. So if we look at confidential AI and generative AI, right? Um, Organizations need to use data to power their AI applications. For instance, build confidential RAG pipelines, confidential agentic workflows, use data that resides in a variety of silos. Um, Even within the enterprise, different departments, different teams can't freely share data with each other, especially if the data is confidential, because their most confidential data is also their most valuable data. There are strict rules and processes around governance. Who is allowed to access what purposes you're allowed to use the data for. And as a result, this data does not get used to its fullest potential. As a result, enterprises today are struggling with taking their AI projects from pilot to production because, and a lot of these projects get stalled in the pilot phase as well because, um, well, all CEOs are giving a mandate to their CIOs, to their CTOs to adopt AI. Um, the CIO, the CTO's organizations build these AI applications, but when it comes to launching them, they often run into obstacles and hindrances because, well, the CISO or the compliance teams will block them, and with good reason because the data is confidential. To solve this problem, well, what do you do? Um, our approach is based on confidential computing technology, using which we provide verifiable guarantees across the AI lifecycle. So before you are deploying the solution into production, before you're sending any data to it, you can verify, you need to be able to verify that the platform and the solution is in a trusted state and configured the way you need it to be. For instance, this means that providing a cryptographic proof that these are the agents that will operate on the data and nothing else. These are the models that will operate on the data. This is the exact workflow that will touch the data. These are the policies that I need to enforce. And I have a proof that these are the policies that will need to be enforced. So before sending any information, any data into the solution at all, you need to be able to verify the system is in a trusted state. During Once you have done this verification, you need to be able to keep your data encrypted, even at runtime. If we take a step back and look at the state of the encryption today, organizations know how to encrypt data at rest when it's stored in systems and databases and data lakes. We can encrypt it using standard encryption schemes. Organizations also know how to encrypt data in transit. Now, when information is being sent over the network, it's encrypted using standard encryption mechanisms as well, TLS and so forth. Um, the third leg of the stool is encryption at runtime. When data is being processed during execution, it must be encrypted in memory as well, so that no one, not even the infrastructure provider, can get access to that data. And this is crucial uh, to enforce and ensure that data stays protected when it's getting used. So a confidential AI solution needs to provide these during execution guarantees as well around keeping data protected and ensuring that any policies enforced in that data are cryptographically bound at runtime as well. And after you're done with the execution, you need to be able to verify, to demonstrate to auditors or compliance officers that the data was only used in permitted and compliant ways, in ways it was allowed to be used. So this range of before, during, and after guarantees is essential for any complete confidential AI solution. And that is
So if
our
I could
approach at Opaque.
If I could maybe make sense of what you just said, I think you said that what underlies of all of this is the need for protection of the data, of the processes, of the assumptions. The way you do it is with cryptography. And we're often, like all of us know that cryptography is used to encrypt data to make it protected. But what you're saying is it also is being used by you to protect the process. And I think about like say DocuSign or something like that, where
Mhm.
we know that certain people went through a process of signing and you have
Yes.
timestamps to show everything afterwards. So here you're saying that you have a corporate process for who owns the data, what is the way to process it, and of course the compute itself is guaranteed to not expose that. And all of this is protected by the math underneath using cryptography, right?
That's a good summary, I think, Francis. The one thing I will add is that this is cryptography combined with recent advances in hardware technology as well, which in industry we called confidential computing. Um, Abstracting all of that away, but it's a combination of um, cryptography and hardware-rooted trust that ultimately makes this possible. Um, Here's an interesting example, right? Meta, for example, announced private processing, which is being used to power AI features on WhatsApp, giving users the guarantee or assurance that no one, not even Meta or WhatsApp, can access the user data and messages while still allowing their AI features to deliver the capabilities that the users need. Um, this is an example of confidential AI and its benefits. Similarly, Apple deployed private cloud compute that allows the deployment of AI models in secure and verifiable environments, um, ensuring that user data gets protected even in the cloud. So all of these AI features become possible as a result of confidential AI while ensuring that the data stays protected at all times. Um, Big tech is doing it and has been doing it in the recent years. Confidential AI, the category makes it possible for enterprises to adopt it as well. Opaque makes it deployable for the enterprises as well.
Are there any performance or other kinds of trade-offs that the enterprise should expect or pay for?
Uh, The beauty of confidential AI solutions when done right is that because the technology is rooted in hardware, the overhead that you pay for, the cryptographic machinery that is required is quite small. Depending on the workload, it can range from a few percentage points to maybe a few tenths of percent at the most, in principle. So, yes, there is a cost, but it's not prohibitive. It's eminently reasonable, often negligible in practice. Um, Now, of course, one has to be cognizant of um, you need this hardware capability to deploy the platform or confidential AI solutions. Um, so if you're deploying it on-prem, then you may need to get that hardware in your data centers. But chances are that if you have the latest AMD or Intel machines or the latest NVIDIA GPUs, H100s, for instance, then you have this capability, and that investment need not be made. Um, these technologies, this hardware is already available on the clouds and has been for a number of years. So the barrier to adopting confidential AI from a core technology perspective goes away. Um, if you want to build your own solutions, then you will need to invest in skill set and upskilling. Um, or you can buy confidential AI solutions that make this simple for you, so that you, as an end user, do not have to be an expert in confidential computing or confidential AI. The promise of confidential AI solutions is that you should be able to power the same workflows, the same applications, do the same work that you have been doing, and magically now everything is secure end to end. So there
Very
are
nice.
various dimensions to cost.
Hmm. Maybe we can focus more on generative AI specifically for the enterprise because that's what many CIOs are thinking about. What's
Mhm.
different about generative AI from your perspective in this context of confidential AI?
Um, this is an excellent question, and we see this in our when I talk to customers and prospects. This comes up very frequently as well. You know, Gen AI changed everything naturally. It sounds like a cliche, but it's true. The reason for that is pre-Gen AI, when you're dealing with a limited number of data sources, structured data, you can enforce policies and governance around it with good enough results. And organizations have been doing it for a while. Um, what changed, I think, with Gen AI, and with good reason, is well, now you can ingest vast amounts of data, structured as well as unstructured, from all sorts of source systems. Um, and at the same time, there is, when you're dealing with AI models and AI agents, there is this amorphous anxiety across enterprises, across everyone we speak to around, well, what is happening to the data? Will that data get leaked? Will the model remember my information and reveal it to someone else? Uh, an end user of a chatbot, will they get responses that reveal to them information about user B? For instance, if I build a RAG pipeline or deploy an AI solution on my Slack information, then my Slack conversations with you, Francis, should not become visible to someone else who might be having conversations with you. Um, so there was a lot of anxiety and around how AI systems are processing the data, uh, coupled with the non-determinism that is inherent in these systems. If you're deploying agents, well, agents are operating at machine speed. Uh, they're not deterministic. So if you think about uh, the possibility of some agent misusing your data or mishandling your data or revealing it in a way that it's not allowed, it should not be doing, um, and agents are interacting with each other, the mathematical likelihood of something going wrong almost becomes a certainty. So there is a lot of well-placed concern around the leakage of sensitive data in these AI systems as a result of new Gen AI solutions. And that is what we see um, the need for confidential AI to be based on, and that is why it is so much more palpable today than it was, let's say, 3 years ago.
Yeah, so as you said, generative AI really ups the game for everyone because it adds so much complexity, and it's difficult to protect all that. But I believe that ServiceNow CEO Bill McDermott recently highlighted how AI agents are powering the enterprise transformation and they are using opaque systems. So, can you explain how you're able to help with that and what's happening in terms of real use cases and real customer experience?
Yes, absolutely. So the ServiceNow example is one of my personal favorites because it's a simple system, but provides so much value. Um, and Bill, I think, yeah, spoke about this on CNBC as well a couple of months ago. But the solution is the problem that ServiceNow is solving. As part of their internal applications and operations is they're using AI to power a whole variety of applications internally, from chatbots to other kinds of apps. For instance, there is an application that allows their employees, sales reps, to get answers to questions that they may have, right? Previously, when an employee had a question about their commissions or quotas, they would open a ticket, it would go through a human help desk. It would take a number of days because humans would need to pull data from various systems, sales data, HR data that is super confidential, highest level of sensitivity, cannot be shared outside a few permitted personnel. Um, Now, this is getting powered using AI, using a confidential RAG pipeline. This Opaque is powering this confidential RAG workflow and a number of others. How it works is, well, now you have the application that sits in front. The user submits a question. Um, Given this question, the RAG workflow decides which data sources do I need to look up and how I need to pull data from the sales database or from the HR system of record, given this user's credentials. That data is ingested securely with policies cryptographically bound to the source systems. The data is kept encrypted at runtime in memory and is then bundled with the user's question to send to an LLM that is also running securely inside Opaque to produce the responses that the user needs. Um, and you can enforce guardrails to apply any business policies that ServiceNow has on the entire workflows as well. As a result, the entire workflow, from ingesting data to processing it to returning a response to the user, is now verifiably protected. And anyone can attest to this. So this makes it much easier for the CIO's team and her organization who are deploying, building, and managing these applications and workflows to get the data that they need to power these AI applications and deliver value across the entire organization while making sure that the data stays protected and is only used in the ways that it should be in an authorized manner. Um, this is an example of a use case at ServiceNow. We see the same pattern across enterprises. In fact, for some of our customers, which include startups and other smaller to medium-sized companies as well, as a result of this technology, they are better able to service their customers using their AI features as well. Because in many cases, organizations have challenges selling their AI capabilities to their customers because their customers, who are large organizations, are naturally concerned about the use of their data and how it will get processed. Oh, will this vendor be able to see my data? Will they train their models on it? And so forth. As a result of Opaque and as a result of deploying their AI workflows inside Opaque and powering their applications using this technology, using confidential AI, they are able to now give their customers the assurance that their data is always kept protected and handled only in ways that it should be and is not leaked or misused in any way.
As you're saying, the issue of data confidentiality and privacy, that is really a end-to-end problem. So not a single part must fail. So it goes back to ecosystem. And it's interesting that Accenture recently invested in Opaque. So could you comment on industry partnerships with diverse complementary partners like that? How will that play a role in accelerating the adoption? You have proven it works. How do you make it widely adopted throughout the industry?
Absolutely. I think partners like Accenture and others are key to this as well because, look, confidential AI is a new and emerging category. The that's where we that's where we are headed as an industry. Um, so much so that confidential AI needs to be part of the operating model of organizations, as opposed to something that you consider as an afterthought. Um, Partners like Accenture and others are key towards making this simple for organizations to adopt, right? Because the lay machine learning engineer or software developer or data scientist is not an expert in confidentiality or privacy. All they want is to be able to do their job and do it better by being able to access data that they did not previously have access to. Um, our partnership with Accenture allows us to scale to organizations across the globe, across sizes, by making this super, super simple for them, by allowing us to service customers across geographies and giving them recipes to integrate these solutions into their existing AI stack. Because a good confidential AI solution should not be a rip and replace exercise. Right? It needs to be simple to adopt. It needs to be simple to integrate into your existing workflows and pipelines uh, without being disruptive. And I think partners like Accenture and others play a key role towards that.
Maybe just to look a little bit farther ahead. So I think in the next and months and years, you're going to get these solutions widely adopted in the enterprise. What are some natural places to think about after that's begun? Like, what are the next frontiers for confidential AI beyond, let's say, the conventional enterprise use cases?
Um, to me, and I think most practitioners in this space would agree, is that confidential AI or otherwise needs to be the default. It must be the default. All AI must be confidential AI. Um, I liked coming back to the example that I was talking about earlier in the encryption space. Um, there was a time where you could visit websites on the browser of your choice where the communication wasn't encrypted over the network. It's unthinkable now, right? And now, if you try to navigate to a website that is not TLS protected, where the communication is not TLS protected, the browser often won't let you. It will throw up a big flashing warning and an error. Um, Before that, it took some time for encrypting data at rest to become the standard as well. So, just as we now see encryption of data at rest and in transit to be the default, so must encryption of data at runtime be the default as well. It's not something that is something that you think about later. It's built in to the solution that you're providing. Similarly, with confidential AI, all AI must be confidential. All AI must be verifiable, because without having confidentiality and verifiability guarantees as inbuilt into the system as first-class primitives, uh, we'll not be able to deliver on trust to users, to customers. To enable that trust, to provide a trust layer for AI, adopting confidential AI as part of the operating model, as part of the solution that you're building, I think is key. And it's inevitable. If you look at what's been happening in industry, starting with the rollout and adoption of these solutions from a big tech perspective, and now with enterprises like ServiceNow and others, it's a matter of time. But I think of this as the default state, as opposed to being a separate category of its own. All AI is confidential.
Very, very much agree with that. That's what's exciting about what Opaque does, which is the underlying need for confidentiality and privacy that is universal for important applications. So there's so much more to do. So maybe we could wrap up. Can you talk about what is your call to action for the enterprise leaders who are kind of sitting on very valuable sensitive data, but not yet sure how to unlock its full potential using AI? What should they be doing to prepare for this future where there's confidential AI?
Um, I think a simple way to start is um, So I come back to this being as part of the operating model. Um, I think a simple way to start is identify 1 to 2 key high impact use cases, adopt confidential AI solutions um, from the cloud providers. There are vendors who offer this. Um, Reason through what this means for your use case across the life cycle, because different use cases can have different requirements, and then scale it out. So in a nutshell, it's no different from how you would go about adopting any other AI solution, but you've got to be thinking about confidentiality and verifiability from the ground up. So start
So
now,
maybe
because otherwise it's going to come back to worry you in the future.
that's right. So it's kind of like it works, but it does take preparation and forethought, and you'll be very happy when you've done it.
Exactly, exactly. Couldn't agree more.
Well, thank you very much, Rishabh. It's been really fun talking about this with you. And we've really enjoyed watching you and Opaque Systems on this journey. And we're excited to be part of it going forward, see where you could go next. Thank you so much.
Likewise, thank you so much, Francis, for having me and for the conversation.